Recording. Good day, everyone. In this video lecture, we'll be covering the first part of our first lesson for finals, which is entitled Drugs Affecting Adrenergic Neurotransmission. Now, for you to be guided in this lesson, kindly refer to your handouts that I posted in your Google Classroom page. Okay? Now, to start this topic, let us have a review of the nervous system. Now, your nervous system, the two subdivisions of your nervous system includes the central and the peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system includes the brain and the spinal cord, whereas your peripheral nervous system includes the other nerves in your periphery. The peripheral nervous system, under it, we have the autonomic and the somatic nervous system. And then under your autonomics, so autonomic nervous system, this is the system that is involved in the involuntary actions, which includes both sympathetic and the parasympathetic division. Now for our topic, for drugs affecting adrenergic neurotransmission, we'll be focusing more on your sympathetic nervous system. Okay, now to start things with, the term adrenergic, which was mentioned earlier, it is associated with the term adrenaline, also known as epinephrine, which is the N-methylated analog of norepinephrine. So by the way, epinephrine and norepinephrine, these are the neurotransmitters that are involved in the stimulation of your sympathetic nervous system. So this is somewhat similar lang in our lecture for cholinergic agents, wherein your acetylcholine, it is the one that acts at your muscarinic and nicotinic receptors. Now, for your sympathetic nervous system, epinephrine and norepinephrine does those actions. Next, adrenergic drugs, they act through effector cells, through adrenoceptors that are normally activated by norepinephrine, or they act on neurons that release the neurotransmitter. So when we talk about drugs, specifically your adrenergic drugs, these are agents that would mimic or that would antagonize the actions of the norepinephrine or epinephrine or other neurotransmitters that would act at your adrenergic receptors. So by the way, the binding sites of these neurotransmitters are called adrenoceptors. So our adrenoceptors, they are found throughout the peripheral and the central nervous system. By the way, our adrenoceptors, similar to your muscarinic receptors in our lesson for drugs affecting cholinergic neurotransmission, this one, or our adrenoceptors rather, are also GPCRs. They are also classified as GPCRs, shortened for G protein coupled receptors. Now, adrenoceptors, furthermore, they are broadly classified as alpha and beta, depending on their selectivity for the N-substituted analogs of norepinephrine. Kumbaga, kung sa cholinergic receptors, we have nicotinic and muscarinic receptors. For your adrenoceptors, we have the alpha and the beta receptors. Furthermore, for alpha and beta, it will be subdivided pa into different classifications. But we'll get to that later. Okay, now, when the sympathetic nervous system is stimulated, it is associated with the fight or flight response. Ibig sabihin nito, you can expect the responses that would happen when a person is frightened or is preparing to flee, fight or flight response. So responses that you can expect when the sympathetic division is activated includes the following: increase in heart rate and force of contraction, increase in blood pressure, dilation of bronchioles and pupils, increase in gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. Now, in referral to your drugs, we have those drugs that would agonize or antagonize the adrenoceptors, and they have specific therapeutic benefits. So we have our alpha agonists, which are used as potent vasoconstrictors. They are used for the management of hypotension. They are also used to relieve congestion and other similar conditions. Other uses of your adrenergic drugs, they are used to suppress appetite and increase alertness, particularly those that have the property of penetrating into the blood-brain barrier, entering to the CNS. They are also used for asthma and related respiratory disorders, primarily by its action in dilating the bronchioles. So dito papasok ang ating beta agonists. And most importantly, our adrenergic agents, they are used as antihypertensive agents, particularly those agents that are antagonists at both alpha and beta receptors. Okay, so before we proceed to our main coverage for this topic, let us first discuss the biosynthesis, storage, and release of norepinephrine. So remember earlier, our neurotransmitters, they are the ones that would stimulate the adrenoceptors, causing a response. So it would be wise for us to identify how are these neurotransmitters produced. So by the way, our neurotransmitters, the production rather of these neurotransmitters takes place in the terminus of your adrenergic neuron. So it begins with the transport of the amino acid L-tyrosine into the adrenergic neuron cell, followed by the oxidation of the amino acid by tyrosine hydroxylase to produce the metabolite L-DOPA, shortened for L3,4-dihydroxyphenylalanine. Afterwards, your L-DOPA, it would be metabolized by the enzyme DOPA decarboxylase to form dopamine. Then afterwards, dopamine, it will be taken up into a storage vesicle located near the terminus of the adrenergic neuron. Kumbaga, it will be engulfed inside a vesicle. Inside the vesicle, dopamine, with the help of the enzyme dopamine beta hydroxylase, it will be converted to the neurotransmitter norepinephrine. So norepinephrine remains in the vesicle until released into the synapse during signal transduction. So for a better illustration, we have this one. So as presented earlier, tyrosine, it will be taken up inside the adrenergic neuron. Tyrosine will be converted to L-DOPA, which will be converted further to dopamine. Dopamine will be taken up by your vesicle. inside the vesicle, dopamine will be converted to norepinephrine. And then upon a signal transduction, primarily with the influx of calcium due to the presence of an action potential, it would cause the fusion of the vesicle into the terminus. So that it would cause the release of the neurotransmitter norepinephrine into the synapse, wherein it would have different fates ang norepinephrine natin. Pwede siya mag-bind sa receptors, pwede siyang ma-degrade by enzymes, pwede din siyang ma-convert into another compound or metabolite. Okay, so going back to the pathway, so our norepinephrine would only be released during signal transduction. Now, this signal transduction is associated with the influx of calcium ions, which would cause depolarization into the depolarization of the adrenergic neuron, which triggers the fusion of the storage vesicles with the neuronal cell membrane. So this in turn causes the release of the norepinephrine into the synapse. So norepinephrine could be metabolized, it could bind to receptors, or it could be synthesized to another metabolite. We have epinephrine. So synthesis of epinephrine in the adrenal medulla from norepinephrine with the help of the enzyme PENMET, phenyl, ethanolamine, and methyl transferase. Okay, so this is the summary of your biosynthesis, storage, and release of norepinephrine. Okay, next part, we'll be talking about your adrenergic receptors or adrenoceptors for short. Now, as what was mentioned earlier, our adrenoceptors, similar to your muscarinic receptors, they are G protein coupled receptors. So when we say G protein, it is associated with the formation of secondary messengers, which would elicit a response. Okay, now for your adrenergic receptors, it was mentioned earlier that there are two major subtypes, alpha and beta. But furthermore, alpha and beta is subdivided. We have alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, and beta 2. Additionally, we have beta 3. Beta 3, it is still under investigation. However, beta-3 receptor is thought to be involved in lipolysis. So useful siya in studies involving cholesterol. So going back to our four major adrenoceptors, I'll start first with your alpha-1 receptors. Alpha-1 receptors, they are predominantly postsynaptic and they are GQ coupled. Alpha-1, they are found in vascular smooth muscle and CNS. So since they are GQ coupled, it is associated with the increase or inactivity of your phospholipase C, which in turn increases the cellular levels of the secondary messengers IP3, inositol triphosphate, and DAG, diacyl glycerol. So this one. So action of your phospholipase AC, or C rather, phospholipase C, gives rise to your secondary messengers IP3 and DAG, which in turn causes smooth muscle contraction. Now, going back to the earlier slide, since our alpha-1 receptors, they are found in your vascular smooth muscle, therefore contraction of this muscle would lead to vasoconstriction. So essentially, all you need to know is that when alpha-1 receptors are stimulated or activated, it would cause vasoconstriction. Okay, next. The next type of adrenoceptor, we have alpha-2 receptors. Alpha-2 receptors, they are presynaptic and they are GI coupled. When stimulation of GI proteins inhibits adenylyl cyclase, decreases cyclic AMP, and inhibits the release of norepinephrine from the presynaptic terminal. So initially, when alpha-2 receptors are activated, it would produce an initial vasoconstriction. However, prolonged stimulation of the alpha-2 receptor causes vasodilation. Okay, and the last two adrenoceptors, we have beta-1 and beta-2 receptors. Both of them are predominantly postsynaptic and they are GS coupled. When GS proteins are stimulated, it activates adenylyl cyclase, which increases intracellular cyclic AMP. So the effects are different for the beta-1 and beta-2. For beta-1 receptors, beta-1 receptors are predominantly myocardial in terms that they are found in your heart. So, ibig sabihin nito, when activated, it would cause an increase in heart rate and contraction. So, as presented in the slide, stimulation results in increase in chronotropic and inotropic effects. Another one for your beta-2 receptors, beta-2 receptors, they are scattered or distributed among the different organs, which includes the lungs, the uterus, the vascular smooth muscle, and the skeletal muscle. Now, stimulation of the beta-2 receptors causes the relaxation or dilation of these tissues. So, kung sa lungs pa, it would cause bronchodilation. Kung sa uterus, it would cause uterine relaxation. And additionally, both adrenoceptor subtypes, beta-1 and beta-2, they are found in the CNS. Okay, next, the topic under adrenergic agonist metabolism. Now, similar to your lesson in cholinergic drugs, your acetylcholine, it is susceptible to metabolism by enzymes, particularly the family of acetylcholinesterases. Now, for your adrenergic drugs, particularly for your neurotransmitters, norepinephrine and epinephrine, they are susceptible to metabolism by enzymes, namely MAO and COMT. MAO, it is shortened for monoamine oxidase. COMT, it is shortened for catechol O methyltransferase. So if a drug is vulnerable to MAO and COMT, it renders it orally ineffective, or it would have a short duration of action. Now, the focus of Org Medchem is more on SARs, right? Structure, activity, relationships. Now, in this topic, you are going to identify, or rather in this lesson, you will be able to identify based on the structure if a drug would be susceptible to metabolism by COMT or MAO. So therefore, if susceptible siya, once again, ibig sabihin nito, it would have a transient action. Panandalian lang ang kanyang effect. So how would you know if a drug is susceptible to MAO or COMT. So let's start first with your MAO. Ang target ng MAO is the primary amine. If your compound or your drug contains a primary amine group, so yan ang target ng MAO natin. Ibig sabihin nito, your drug would be susceptible to metabolism by MAO since it contains a primary amine group. How about for COMT? Drugs that contain catechol functional group 1,2-diphenolic moiety, it is subject to metabolism by COMT. So the presence of a catechol group renders the drug susceptible to COMT metabolism. So yan siya ha for MAO and COMT. MAO, the presence of primary amines. COMT, the presence of a catechol functional group. Okay, in this slide, you will observe that on the table on the left, that table 10.1, it summarizes the responses when a specific receptor subtype on the specific organs or tissues are activated. On the other hand, on table 10.2 on the right, lists the different drugs that would stimulate or would antagonize the specific receptor subtype and the different therapeutic uses. So you can view that one in your handouts. Okay, so let us have a brief review nga lang of your adrenergic nervous system. So what will you expect, or what is the response that you would expect when the adrenergic system or the sympathetic division rather is activated? So I'll start first with your pupils. So ang turo talaga sa amin nito before is that what are the responses that you can expect for a person who is fighting or flight, or who is in fight or flight response. So in the pupils, expected effect is mydriasis, mag-dilate ang pupils. So isipin lang ninyo na parang magsiga ang mata, kay fight or flight man. So kailangan klaro ang tanan. Mydriasis, dilate. How about for the heart rate? Obviously, it was mentioned earlier that the stimulation of the sympathetic division causes tachycardia or increase in heart rate. For your respiratory system, specifically for your bronchioles, so obviously you need air during fight or flight response daw. So therefore, response when the sympathetic division is activated is bronchodilation. And then next, how about for your GI system, for peristalsis and GI motility? So ang feeling ng tao is that kapag in fight or flight response siya, so wala siyang ma-feel na gutom or what. So expected na decreased ang peristalsis and GI motility, along with increase in gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. Okay, so let's proceed to the different agents that act on your adrenergic system. So we have adrenergic agonists. Now your adrenergic agonists, they can act either by direct, indirect, or mixed mechanisms. So direct action, in layman's term, it is when the drug directly attaches itself to the receptor, causing a response. So you can expect that for directly acting agents, they would have selective actions. Selective ang kanyang effect. Kay direct man sa receptor ang kanyang effect or action. Unlike sa indirect, so your indirect action augments norepinephrine's action in the receptors by stimulating its release from presynaptic terminals, blocking its uptake, or inhibiting its metabolism. Essentially, for indirect action, you prolong the levels of the neurotransmitters. So, pinaparami mo siya. So unlike the direct action na selective siya for a specific receptor subtype, indirect action in essence become non-selective. So kasi pwede siya mag-bind ang ating neurotransmitter to your alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2. Okay, and then the last one, we have mixed action. Mixed action occurs when the agonist can act both directly and indirectly. Okay, so let's discuss the first type of your adrenergic agonists. We have the phenylethylamine agonists. Now, they are named as such because of their chemical structure. They contain a phenyl group, an ethylene bridge, and an amine group. Phenylethylamine agonists. Now remember, in our lesson for Org Medchem, we are focusing more on the structure-activity relationship. How does the structure of a drug relate to its effect or use? Now, in terms of your phenylethylamine agonists, we will look at 4 key points. We will look at your Rn, R alpha, R beta, and collectively at your R4 and R5. Okay, so for phenylethylamine agonists, in the study of their SARs, we will look more on their Rn, R alpha, R beta, and R4 and R5. So let's start with your amine substituent or the Rn. Now the amine substituent, it gives you an idea at which adrenoceptor will the drug bind to. Again, the amine substituent, it gives you an idea at which adrenoceptor will the drug bind to. So, may mga requirements tayo dito. For example, if Rn is H, it exhibits a preferential alpha agonist action. Some beta 1 action may be noted. If Rn is CH3 or a methyl group, a non-selective agonist action is noted, and it is used preferably for its alpha agonist action. Pero your main identifier talaga for the amine substituent is kung bulky ba ang amine substituent or not. Again ha, kung bulky ba siya or not. Kung small or bulky. If the amine substituent is small, like for example, hydrogen lang siya, methyl group, ganun lang mga functional groups, they act at your alpha receptor. However, if the amine substituent is large or bulky, it means that it would act at your beta receptors. Again ha, if small, alpha. If large or bulky, it would act at your beta receptors. So it is explained here in the next slide. If the amine substituent is isopropyl, tert-butyl, and aralkyl substituent, it exhibits a selective beta agonist action. So as you can see here, these functional groups are bulky, isopropyl, tert-butyl, aryl-kyl substituents. So they have action at your beta adrenoceptors. Furthermore, it is mentioned here that the tert-butyl and aryl-kyl substituents show greater beta-2 selectivity, while the isopropyl group binds to both binds to both beta-1 and beta-2 sites. Okay ha? So once again ha, ating amine substituent, it gives you an idea at which adrenoceptor will the drug bind to. Next, alpha carbon substituent or the R-alpha. Your alpha carbon substituent, it gives you an idea whether the drug is susceptible to MAO metabolism. MAO metabolism. So, upon looking at your alpha carbon, di ba remember earlier, a drug is susceptible to MAO metabolism if it is or if it contains a primary amine group. A primary amine group. Now, essentially, if the R-alpha contains no substituent, ibig sabihin nito magiging primary amine functional group siya. So therefore, it becomes more susceptible to MAO metabolism. So dapat dito ang tinitingnan for R-alpha, dapat may substituents na naka-attach dito. So once again ha, ating R-alpha, it determines whether the drug is susceptible to MAO metabolism or not. Okay, next, for your beta carbon substituent or R-beta. Your R-beta, it gives you an idea whether the drug is capable of penetrating into the CNS, showing central effects. Beta carbon, CNS penetration. Now, for beta carbon, ang tinitingnan dito is if it contains any hydrophilic functional group like OH. So kapag H lang siya, CNS penetration is enhanced. However, if it contains OH hydroxyl groups, this in turn makes the drug hydrophilic and it slows down the penetration into the CNS. So it determines the extent of action of the drug penetrating into the CNS, ang ating beta carbon. And then finally, we have your R4 and R5 collectively. They are called aromatic substituents. If R4 and R5 are both OH, ibig sabihin nito catechol group, it is now susceptible to COMT metabolism. Therefore, our aromatic substituents, our takeaway in this is that it gives us information if it is susceptible to metabolism by COMT enzyme. So the presence of a catechol functional group renders the drug susceptible to COMT metabolism. Additionally, it makes the drug hydrophilic. Therefore, CNS penetration is not possible. Kaya dalawang OH na siya. It makes the drug more hydrophilic. However, if R4 or R5 is OH, ibig sabihin nito either one of the two is an OH or hydroxyl functional group, ibig sabihin nito they are resistant to COMT metabolism, but they are susceptible to degradation by phase 2 metabolism, namely glucuronidation and sulfation. And similar to catechols, since it contains a hydroxyl functional group, it is still too polar or too hydrophilic to cross through the blood-brain barrier. Lastly, for aromatic substituents, if R4 or R5 is hydrogen, ibig sabihin walang hydroxyl group sa dalawa, CNS stimulation is possible. Kaya hindi naman siya hydrophilic. Walang OH na present. Tapos hindi din siya susceptible to Comte's metabolism. Okay? So yan ha ang ating takeaways or key points rather for our SARs for phenylethylamine agonists. Okay, so next, let's discuss this time our drugs. Pero before muna sa drugs, let us first have a brief review lang of our endogenous catecholamines, which includes dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. Remember, ito yung ginamimik ng ating mga drugs. So dapat, we should also understand what are their actions and uses. So first one, norepinephrine. Norepinephrine, it is a non-selective agent that causes both vasoconstriction and cardiac stimulation. Ang ating norepinephrine, it acts at 3 adrenoceptors, namely alpha-1, alpha-2, beta-1. So if you would check on the structure of norepinephrine below, you would observe that it contains a catechol functional group. At the same time, it also contains a primary amine. So ibig sabihin nito, susceptible siya to both MAO and Comte metabolism. So by the way, additional information about norepinephrine, it is the drug that is recognized for the treatment of septic shock. Septic shock. Okay, next, catecholamine, we have epinephrine. Epinephrine, it is more widely used clinically than norepinephrine. It lacks oral activity. However, the thing about epinephrine is that it is a potent stimulant of all adrenergic receptors. Ibig sabihin nito, it acts at four adrenoceptors. Alpha-1, alpha-2, beta-1, beta-2. Ang ating norepinephrine, wala siyang action sa beta-2 receptors. By the way, ang epinephrine, kung ang norepinephrine, it is recognized as the treatment or the antidote to septic shock, ang ating epinephrine, it is recognized as the antidote to anaphylactic shock. Epinephrine, it is a very potent vasoconstrictor and cardiac stimulant. It is used to relieve bronchoconstriction in asthma due to its beta-2 activity kasi it would cause the relaxation of your bronchioles, causing it to dilate. So treatment siya for bronchoconstriction in asthma and in anaphylactic reactions. At the same time, due to its alpha activity, it has been used in nasal decongestants. Okay. Additionally, epinephrine, it is used to inhibit uterine contraction. So use siya to relax the uterus during labor. Yun nga. ang beta-2 receptors, it is also found in the uterus, causing it to relax if it is stimulated. Epinephrine, it is used to enhance the activity of local anesthetics because it localizes or it gina-prevent niya ang pag-diffuse ng local anesthetic from that site of administration. Epinephrine also, it is used to treat open-angle glaucoma. So by increasing the rate of flow of aqueous humor. An open-angle glaucoma is a type of glaucoma wherein the drainage from your eye is blocked because of impurities. So mag-accumulate ang aqueous humor, causing an increase in intraocular pressure, causing glaucoma. The problem with your epinephrine, if it is given directly, is that it causes eye irritation. That's why it is formulated as a prodrug called dipivefrin. Okay, and the last catecholamine, we have dopamine. Dopamine, it's an immediate precursor of norepinephrine. Similar to norepinephrine because it contains a catechol and a primary amine. It is rapidly metabolized by COMT and MAO. Dopamine, it is recognized for the treatment of cardiogenic shock. Cardiogenic shock. Okay, so these are the targets of your COMT and MAO respectively, the catechol and the primary amine groups. So that's why ang kanyang lifespan, duration of action niya is very short lang due to its susceptibility in metabolism. So in higher doses, dopamine stimulates the beta-1 receptors of the heart, causing an increase in cardiac output. That's why it is recognized as an antidote for cardiogenic shock because of its direct stimulation at the beta-1 receptors. Okay, next, we have our drugs, particularly our selective alpha-1 adrenergic agonists. So from the name itself, selective alpha-1 adrenergic agonist, they bind directly to the alpha-1 receptors, causing the response, which is vasoconstriction. Now, our selective alpha-1 adrenergic agonists, they are classified structurally as the following: phenylethanolamines and 2-aryl imidazolines. Phenylethanolamines, which includes phenylephrine and metaraminol, and 2-aryl imidazolines, xylometazoline and oxymetazoline. So we'll start first with your phenylethanolamines. Examples: phenylephrine, metaraminol, methoxamine. So alpha-1 agonist phenylethanolamines, metaraminol, methoxamine, phenylephrine, they are selective for the alpha-1 receptors. Particularly, they are used for their vasoconstricting effect. So ang phenylephrine, it is recognized for its use as a non-prescription nasal decongestant. So I'm sure you're very familiar with phenylephrine. It is present in our common cold meds like Nuzep, BioFlu. Okay, So phenylephrine, it is a prototypical selective direct-acting alpha-1 agonist. It is orally active because it lacks the catechol functional group, meaning hindi siya metabolized by COMT. And hindi siya nag-contain ng primary amine group. Therefore, hindi po siya susceptible to metabolism by MAO. So if you would check on the structure of phenylephrine, comparing it to epinephrine, it lacks the catechol functional group. Therefore, it makes the drug vulnerable, resistant rather, to metabolism by COMT. Phenylephrine, it is less potent than epi and norepinephrine, but selective siya for the alpha-1 receptors. So uses of your phenylephrine, it is indicated for severe hypotension resulting from shock or drug administration. Predominantly, it is used as a nasal decongestant in both oral and topical preparations. In the eye, it is used to dilate the pupil and to treat open-angle glaucoma. Okay, next drug, we have methoxamine. Methoxamine is another selective alpha-1 agonist and a parenteral vasopressor. It is less potent than phenylephrine as a vasoconstrictor. So it is used primarily during surgery to maintain adequate arterial blood pressure because of its vasoconstricting effect. So those are for our phenylethanolamines. Sorry. Phenylethanolamines, specific or selective alpha-1 agonists. Now, another chemical classification of your selective alpha-1 agonists are your 2-aryl imidazoline alpha-1 agonists. So examples are silometazoline, oxymetazoline, tetrahydrozoline, and nafazoline. So these 4 are also employed as vasoconstrictors. Primarily, the first 2, silo and oxymetazoline, they are used for nasal. They are used as nasal decongestants. And the last 2, tetra and nafazoline, they are used to relieve redness, eye redness. The first 2 sa nose, the last 2 sa eyes. Now, they are named as 2-aryl imidazoline agonists because they contain the functional group, 2-aryl imidazoline. Tapos they differ lang on the R functional group present. So once again, they are vasoconstrictors. Now, for the SARs of your 2-aryl imidazolines, there is the presence of a 1-carbon bridge between the carbon 2 of the imidazole ring and a phenyl substituent. Pero the most important part of this SARs is the presence of a functional group ortho to the methylene bridge, as presented in the pictures or in the structures below. The one pointed by the arrows, they are relevant in its action for the alpha-1 receptors for its vasoconstricting effect. Okay, so bulky functional groups or bulky lipophilic groups attached to the phenyl group or phenyl ring at the meta or para position provide selectivity for the alpha-1 receptors by diminishing affinity for the alpha-2 receptors. And once again, they are used widely as topical preparations, either as nasal decongestants, yung silo and oxymetazoline, or as eye drops tetrahydrozoline, and nafazoline. Okay, Xylo and oxymetazoline have been used as a topical nasal decongestant because of their ability to promote constriction of the nasal mucosa. So it is said daw na congested ang person because of the dilation of the vessels. Mo na siya makakos sa secretions. So if you constrict those vessels, less ang secretions na associated with with congestion. So yun lang for essentially for your 2-aryl imidazoline agonists. So therefore, for alpha-1 agonists, they are primarily employed for their vasoconstricting effect. For our selective alpha-1 agonist, we have the we have your phenylethanolamines, phenylephrine, the great example, and then we have your 2-aryl imidazolines, which includes xylo, oxymetazoline, tetrahydrozoline, and nafazoline. Okay, this time, let's proceed to your alpha-2 adrenergic agonists. So, selective alpha-2 adrenergic agonists, this includes 2-aminoimidazolines and other alpha-2 agonists. So actually, I will stop here at your alpha-2 agonist for this video lecture. Okay, for your alpha-2 agonists, primarily for your 2-aminoimidazoline, they differ mainly from 2-aryl imidazoline from the alpha-1 agonists, mainly by the presence of the orthochlorine groups at the NH bridge. So instead of methyl groups ang naka-attach, it is replaced by orthochloro groups. So alpha-2 agonists, they are used as antihypertensives, anti-glaucoma, and analgesics. Okay, so the best example of an alpha-2 agonist, primarily for your 2-aminoimidazolines, kay your clonidine. So as you can see here, for clonidine, it's almost similar to your 2-aryl imidazoline, except lang na there is the presence of a nitrogen, kaya siya 2-amino imidazoline. Wala siyang carbon bridge. At saka instead of a methyl group, dalawang chlorine groups at your phenyl ring. So clonidine, it possesses central alpha-2 selectivity. So this one, the one pointed by the arrows, they are essential for alpha-2 receptor selectivity. Okay, now clonidine, it was originally synthesized as a vasoconstricting nasal decongestant. So initially, it caused vasoconstriction. Pero over time, clonidine resulted to hypotension. So it resulted to dramatic hypotensive effects. So initially daw, ang action ni clonidine is that it causes a transient vasoconstriction because of its activity at your alpha receptors at the periphery. Pero this drug is capable of crossing into the blood-brain barrier and entering to the CNS, wherein it will bind to the adrenergic receptors there, causing a decrease in the sympathetic outflow, which in turn decreases the blood pressure. Therefore, useful siya for hypertension. So for clonidine, initially it causes a transient vasoconstriction, pero over time, since it is capable of crossing into the blood-brain barrier, it will cause hypotension in the long run. Therefore, it is useful as an antihypertensive. Okay, so this one is for clonidine. So as mentioned earlier, clonidine can produce a transient vasoconstriction and increase in blood pressure that is soon overcome by vasodilation. Additionally, clonidine has sedative properties because it is capable of crossing into the CNS, remember? And therefore, it is used to treat ADHD, nicotine, and opiate withdrawal. Okay, next, another alpha-2 agonist, we have apraclonidine and brimonidine. Apraclonidine and brimonidine, both of them, they are used, they are analogs rather of clonidine. Apraclonidine does not cause the blood-brain barrier, does not cross the blood-brain barrier. Brimonidine can, and thus can produce hypotension and sedation, similar to clonidine. The thing lang with your brimonidine is that it is a more selective alpha-2 agonist than clonidine or apraclonidine. Brimonidine, it is present in our market today with the brand name Alphagan. It is recognized for the treatment of glaucoma. Kung ang epinephrine, it increases the outflow of aqueous humor. The mechanism of action of brimonidine is that it decreases aqueous humor production and increases uveoscleral outflow. So ibang pathway ang kanyang pag-treat sa glaucoma for brimonidine kung i-compare mo siya sa epinephrine. Okay, next, tizanidine. Tizanidine, it is a centrally active muscle relaxant analog of clonidine approved for use in reducing spasticity associated with cerebral or spinal cord injury. Essentially, ang tizanidine, if you would look at it, it is an analgesic. It is used for the relief of pain centrally. Yun nga, associated with cerebral or spinal cord injury. So central pain ang use ni tizanidine, a central analgesic, kumbaga. Okay, so this figure, everyone, it summarizes to you the aforementioned drugs, clonidine, brimonidine, apraclonidine, and tizanidine, along with their CNS activity. Now, as you can see here, the logarithm P, or the partition coefficient, it relates to the CNS activity of your drugs. So the greater the value of the log P, or the partition coefficient, ibig sabihin nito, it has an ability to cross into the CNS, therefore having CNS activity. So clonidine has a higher log P, so as represented by the two positives for the CNS activity, followed by brimonidine, tizanidine, and ang APRA is wala man. Walang CNS activity. Okay, next, we have guanfacine and guanabens. Guanfacine and guanabens, they are recognized also for their antihypertensive action or effect. Okay, and the last one, we have methyl-dopa, brand name Aldomet. Methyl-dopa, it's an alpha-2 agonist acting in the CNS via its active metabolite, alpha-methyl-norepinephrine. Methyl-dopa, it is widely recognized as the drug that is considered to be safe as an antihypertensive for pregnant women. So its mechanism of action is acting at the alpha-2 receptors in the CNS in the same manner as clonidine to decrease sympathetic outflow, and this in turn lowers blood pressure. Okay, so yun lang for our the first part of our lesson for drugs affecting adrenergic neurotransmission. So next part for our synchronous lesson or activity, we'll be discussing or we'll be having the continuation of the lesson. So we'll start with your beta adrenergic receptor agonists. So far in this video lecture, we covered on the introduction, and we also had discussed we also discussed on endogenous catecholamines, selective alpha-1 agonists, and selective alpha-2 agonists. So that's it for this video lecture. Thank you and have a good day.